Hey everyone, how's it going? A while back, I did a run on the best designed Pokemon in all of history really, the upside down Pokeball with eyes. And in today's video, we're gonna do, as you know, the right side up Pokeball with eyes. Exciting stuff. In the context of fully evolved Pokemon, Electro didn't do all that well, but wasn't terrible. But Voltorb does have a bit of an advantage. For a first form Pokemon, it is extremely fast, and while looking at Voltorb's moves, I do anticipate it struggling with Brock immensely. It is far more common for first form Pokemon to struggle versus Brock, so it may not affect it as much in the final rankings. I did try battling Brock at level 13, and there's a reason for this. Even though we get Sonic Boom at level 17, and that will for sure be good enough, Screech could be an interesting move to lower defense enough that we could do some decent damage, but unfortunately Geodude just does way too much to me, and with Defense Curl, it just wasn't going to happen. So I end up trying to beat the Junior Trainer again and again and again, and finally face Brock at level 15. Now we're going to do the exact same thing, try to use Screech 3 times, it's at -5, and Tackle's doing decent damage considering I have very low attack, it's a low base power move, and I'm, well, attacking a Geodude. But while we do end up knocking out Geodude, with some bad luck, we only had 1 HP. Even with optimal luck, we'd have about 6. Just not gonna work. In spite of my best efforts, and even though we did have Screech, we just needed to use Sonic Boom. That is 20 HP of damage guaranteed, if it doesn't miss, which it can. But it knocks out both Geodude and Onix in 2 hits. Level 17 isn't crazy high to beat Brock, but it's definitely going to put Voltorb at a bit of a disadvantage. Hopefully one it can crawl out of, but with its limited move pool, this may be enough to sink it, but we'll see. Now, in theory, Cerulean City would be really easy because we have an electric Pokemon against a flying type in Pidgeotto, or water types in Misty. In practice, Voltorb doesn't get any electric moves that it learns via level up, so we're stuck with Sonic Boom and Tackle. At this stage of the game, Sonic Boom is still a really powerful move, but it's still going to take 2 or 3 hits to knock out most Pokemon, and yet, against Rival 2, due to some good luck to be quite honest with you, not getting any sand attacks, we were able to knock out each and every one of the Rival's Pokemon, and on our very first attempt, make it through to Nugget Bridge. Again, in an ideal world, we would have learned an electric move and Misty would be easy, but that's not Voltorb. We're still going to battle Misty, we're not going to skip her because the electric move we want, that's going to be great, we need to beat Misty to get that. So we're going to have to use Sonic Boom, which as you've seen is going to take several turns and can miss. It takes 3 turns to knock out Staryu, and we're already at just 24 then 26 HP for Starmie. 1 Bubble Beam would have knocked me out, but X Defend plus Tackle plus the fact that Starmie doesn't have more than 60 HP led to another first try victory. Somewhat surprising considering how underpowered Voltorb is, and very shortly it's going to get a heck of a lot more powerful, but we do have one more major battle before then, Rival 3. But first, a big thank you to today's sponsor, returning once again, Boot.dev. So what is Boot.dev? Boot.dev offers you a way to learn back-end web development in both Python and Go. But unlike a lot of other online course-based websites, Boot.dev takes inspiration from video games. In other words, they want to make learning back-end development fun. And to that end, there is experience points, achievements, quests, and even a global leaderboard, which you can get top spot on if you're willing to put in the work. At Boot.dev, they know that the only way you're really going to master back-end web development is by writing a ton of code. And this is important because at Boot.dev, they don't believe coding is some get-rich-quick scheme. They believe that it's important to take the time, learn the fundamentals, and then you can land that dream job in tech. And one big advantage of having a job in tech, as I can attest to, is that you often get to work from home, which I'm going to be honest, not having to set alarms and wait in traffic is pretty good. Now, if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, then please use my promo code JROSE11 that will provide you 25% off your first payment, which could be for 1 month or even 1 year. So go and check them out. we're still stuck with the same moveset we've had since Brock. I mean, we do have Self-Destruct, but in a solo run, that just means you lose. Pidgeotto has less than 60 HP, so that's good. So does Raticate. I end up going for Tackle just to preserve power points. That was a huge mistake, and I would have to reset. Now, ordinarily, this would be a really bad situation to be in because I don't want to use the Pokemon Center here so I can easily warp back to Cerulean, but in front of Bill's house, there is an Ether. I typically will not use this Ether later in the game. It's very helpful against either Rival 3 or Lieutenant Surge, so I don't have to heal, and no, there is no healing spot in the SSN. I know you all think that's a thing. It's not a thing. It's Fire Red and Leaf Green only. Anywho, we need to hit Sonic Boom 3 times and not get hit by Sand Attack, and finally, it happens. This should be a victory, although missing to Raticate is annoying. Raticate then goes for Hyper Fang, so this may be a little close. Kadabra uses Disable, it disables the right move, and 3 tackles knock it out. Finally, Ivysaur goes for Growl, Vine Whip, and because it has just less than 60 HP, we can knock it out in 3 hits. So, not a first try victory, but honestly, Voltorb made it through the bad part of the game really quickly, and now can go to Lieutenant Surge, and if we win, we get Thunderbolt, the best electric move in the entire game that we will have as of Gym 3. Things are looking up for our Sentient Pokeball, but before they do, we actually need to beat Surge, and we're stuck with moves that are going to take a while. Sonic Boom is going to be a 3-hit KO, and Tackle ends up turning it into a 4-hit KO, meaning I had just 9 HP. Looks like we're going to get a rare Surge loss. In fact, we may not even make it to Raichu. Well, look at that, we do with 1 HP, but after just 1 hit, we're knocked out. This may end up being a bit of a problem, and I need to go in at full HP. No messing around, no Tackle, although, again, Sonic Boom can miss. That's why I do prefer Tackle if they do similar. So I end up actually going for Screech and Tackle, trying to see if I can knock out Voltorb just a little bit quicker, but no, it's a 4-hit KO instead of a 3-hit KO. That was a big mistake. I then use Sonic Boom, which is running out of power points, knock out Pikachu, and then miss against Raichu, miss again against Raichu, Growl is good, and then Thunderbolt. Had I not missed, we could have won, but yeah, Surge is going to be a little bit of a grind. Unfortunately, I don't believe I actually have enough Sonic Booms to just spam it for the entire battle, so we will need to use Tackle, but we can use it as strategic points, such as the final hit against Pikachu, just to finish it off, and then ideally the final hit against Raichu. And would you look at that, we tank on 1 HP Raichu's attack and knock it out with Tackle. This was a very difficult battle, despite theoretically looking like it would be a great matchup, but finally has not only a move to take advantage of its much higher special, it is a powerful same type move. I think things are going to be smooth sailing from here on in. Once we get through Rock Tunnel, I mean. Prior to that, we have some trainers that are very annoying for Voltorb, such as the Lass, which uses Oddish and Bellsprout. Now, these may not seem so bad, but they take 2 hits to knock out, and they have status moves, and Wrap, and are very annoying. This battle actually took me a few attempts to win. Next, we have the Pokemaniac, and he has a Cubone with a ground move. So I try to go for Screech Tackle, thinking maybe that'll be better than Sonic Boom, but no, that's a bad idea. Sonic Boom is going to be a 4-hit KO, it's looking like, which isn't good either, but as it turns out, I misjudged how much HP I was doing. I mean, it's not like they're numbers, you just kind of have to visually see, is this a third or more? Turns out it was, probably exactly a third, and so 3 Sonic Booms were all I needed, so we got by this Pokemaniac, but we're not done yet. Before the trainer you're expecting me to talk about, there is a trainer with an Oddish and a Bulbasaur, both of which resist electric moves and both of which have status moves, which are very annoying if they were to use them, and I needed quite a few resets to get battles where they didn't. And then we get to the trainer that I have now dubbed Whitgag, standing for Hiker with 2 Geodude and a Graveler. Unlike the last and Junior Trainer, I can't use Thunderbolt here. I have to use Sonic Boom, and it's a 3-hit KO. So if they don't use Self-Destruct, things are fine, but only one Pokemon can before I lose. It looked like we were going to win on our first attempt, but then Graveler had other ideas. No, it took quite a few attempts to actually beat the Hiker and just required a bunch of resetting. There's no real additional move I could use that would make this battle any easier. You just kinda need the randomness to break in your favor, but at least Graveler is still a 3-hit KO. Something that we have really been taking advantage of, but is going to be going away relatively soon as the Pokemon HP climbs higher and higher. And this might be when you're realizing that even though we have a super powerful same type attack electric move, the trainers in which resist or are immune to it, we are in really bad shape. And for that reason, I'm not entirely optimistic heading to Celadon, where we have 2 more major battles featuring exactly these conditions. With no really good options, I try to battle Giovanni first, and once again, we're relying on Sonic Boom. Onix is notoriously bad HP, so it's still a 3-hit KO, but Rhyhorn isn't nearly as frail. It's going to take at least 4 Sonic Booms, looks like 4, to knock it out, and by the time it does, I'm at 20 HP. But thankfully, Kangaskhan's special is really low, so it's only going to take 2 hits. It went for Comet Punch, and had it not gotten that 3rd hit, I actually would have won. So this battle, while not great, may not be as bad as I was first fearing. While it did take me 1 more reset in just my 3rd attempt, I got all the luck I needed, more than that actually, with a critical hit against Kangaskhan, and survived with 31 HP. Not bad at all. So one of the 2 scary battles is done. But the thing that makes Voltorb a little bit frustrating for me is that it's not as if we're going to get access to a really cool move that is going to make these battles easier in the future. It feels like we're constantly going to struggle against grass and ground Pokemon. And speaking of grass Pokemon, Erica is the next gym leader, and while you might question why try battling her, I just wanted to see how much Thunderbolt would do and if we even had a shot. And the answer was Thunderbolt does nothing, and we definitely did not have a shot. So this was me dramatically overestimating Voltorb's abilities. That's okay, we can come back way later. Rival 4 has a much better team for Voltorb. This is the first time we're going to be able to use Thunderbolt against Pidgeotto. He has a Gyarados, which he'll use Thunderbolt against, a Growlithe, which is 1-shot, and even Kadabra, well, actually it's going to be a 2-shot, but that's okay. Ivysaur is going to be a little bit more annoying. I decide to go for Thunderbolt and get a critical hit, meaning it was the right call. And so, even though it resisted, Voltorb got through Rival 5 with relative ease. And since we don't have to go battle Erica right now, we do gain access to a large portion of the game, at least once we get done with the Pokemon Tower. Koga's Pokemon don't have the highest special, so I'm hoping that will do pretty well. We got a crit against the first Coughing and against Muck, which is pretty good, but oh wow, another crit. I mean, I am fast. Wow, another crit. Man, this is pretty crazy luck. But then all that needs to happen is Weezing uses Self-Destruct, and I'm donezo. That is pretty common for most Pokemon. Self-Destruct halves your defense, so that sucks. And wow, another critical hit. Holy mackerel. But you can see, oh man, that was the worst thing to be disabled. You can see that, oh man. Well, the luck was not on our side in this second battle. I keep getting interrupted by just crazy stuff. Finally, no crit against Coughing, so it is a 2-hit KO. And the chance we beat Weezing before it knocks us out either with Sludge or Self-Destruct is, well, now it's 0. With all this said, though, I did think that Koga would be beatable by a level 37 Voltorb, because a lot of his Pokemon just simply won't attack. And I do get a lot of critical hits. Base 100 speed is nothing to scoff at. Sure enough, on Battle 4, I think, I make it to Weezing at full HP. Smog does poison, but as per usual, a 3-hit KO, albeit this time with Thunderbolt, and we have another victory. So we beat Koga before Erica, And now we could theoretically surf to Cinnabar. Not that Blaine's fire Pokemon are particularly going to be easy or anything, but we do have that option in addition to our already great speed, receiving a 12.5% boost due to the Soul Badge, so that's cool. Now, I did mention Blaine, but the most reasonable thing to do is battle Rival Fivel. A massive reason for that being that I don't have a Pokemon to surf, and Lapras serves both as a great strength and surf user, but you need to beat Rival Fivel first. The first half of his team is pretty easy. Thunderbolt doesn't one-shot Pidgeot, but nearly does. I then go for Swift, which was a bad call. I then get a one-shot on Gyarados, and then a miss against Growlithe, and so I just decide to reset, because I really don't want to miss in these crucial moments. I want this battle to tell me, can I win at 39, or are we going to be leveling up? Pretty much every pre-evolved Pokemon needs a level up section, and Silph Company is as good a place to do it as any. So, after we knock out Growlithe in 2 hits, I'm at half HP, Alakazam doesn't outspeed, and it's going to be a 3-hit KO. But now what do we do against Venusaur? Like, realistically, I can go for Sonic Boom, but I don't even want to know how many hits that's going to be. Honestly, who cares? It's enough hits that I can tell conclusively, without leveling up or using rare candies, which I'd like to save for later, we're not making it through Rival Fivel. So I level up a bit and battle again, seeing if that's going to make a difference. One big difference is that we nearly one-shot Pidgeot. Of course, 2 quick attacks is the worst thing it could have done. Then against Growlithe, we don't one-shot it yet. Those would be nice one-shots, to be honest with you. And Alakazam's still going to be a 3-shot, unless we get a critical hit. But once we got to Venusaur, I realized we're still really in no position to win. I mean, Swift eventually will do more than Sonic Boom, but now it really won't do all that much. And I wanted to see how many Sonic Booms it would take just to get an idea, but I still can't really tell. It's just too many. I believe I've battled every last trainer in Silph Company, and I'm at level 46. Now we do one-shot Pidgeot, Gyarados we always did, and Growlithe we one-shot, so this is huge. Alakazam isn't quite a 2-hit KO, and that crit is brutal, and I take that back. It was a 2-hit KO, but a range clearly, one that we got a favorable roll on. At this point, Thunderbolt's probably going to do more damage than either Swift or Sonic Boom, and it's still barely doing anything. We did get really bad luck in that battle, so I did try one more time, but the result was the same. I mean, we got super good luck against Alakazam this time and made it with 107 HP. You can see that critical hit Swift did nothing. And the other problem with Venusaur is that we've been seeing Vine Whip. It has Razor Leaf, which is an auto crit, and that's a huge problem. Against certain Pokemon like Voltorb, in fact, overall, I would say Venusaur in Red and Blue is the best starter. There aren't many Pokemon it is super great against because it has a lot of weaknesses, but the ones it is great against, it is insanely good and very hard to stop, because even the Badge Boost glitch, if we had access to that, would not be able to counter the damage of a critical hit Razor Leaf. After battling the Fighting Dojo, I decided one last attempt at Rival Fivel before I resorted to rare candies way earlier than optimal. And wouldn't you know, in a battle where I just needed a little bit of hope, I got some crazy luck versus Venusaur. You can tell I don't expect to win here because I paused for quite a few seconds responding to something that was said in chat. Typically, I would never do this because the timing is important. But we get a paralysis on Venusaur, and then a Razor Leaf only at the very end. So even though there was definitely some time waste, truth be told, I don't think I'd ever get a battle that lucky against Venusaur, so we're gonna take it. The fact we won probably means 1 or 2 more levels would have helped, and if we had a surfing Pokemon, we could have maybe battled the swimmers south of Pallet Town, then we would have to catch one. Instead, we can just get this Lapras, but all is not sunshine and rainbows. We still have some very annoying trainers to battle, including this rocket I never talk about with the Cubone and Marowak. Typically, this trainer is a total joke, but to a Voltorb, it is anything but, having to rely on Swift and Sonic Boom. And yes, I know Double Edge would do more, but then I have to deal with recoil damage. But of course, the trainer that is the most annoying is Giovanni number 2. Nidorino and Kangaskhan were easy as heck. But then Rhyhorn came out and we're back using Sonic Boom. But this time, it is a 6-hit KO. And that's if we hit every Sonic Boom, which we're liable to miss one. But even worse than that is Nidoqueen. Swift does less than Sonic Boom, and Rhyhorn has the ability to lower defense, making this battle extremely irritating. I was actually ready to use Surf and just go to Cinnabar and come back. We rarely do that. But I did end up getting a battle where things worked out. And I do feel like I'm relying on RNG, luck, a lot more. We need Rhyhorn to physically attack us as opposed to lower our defense, because that gives us more of a chance against Nidoqueen, where not just one attack knocks us out. Nidoqueen also cooperated, not using Body Slam a single time. So, yay, a win, but a brute forced one that maybe I should have come back to a little bit later. I guess it really doesn't matter, because if I came back later, the battle would have been way quicker. But this is a really bad sign how it feels like every second or third major battle, Voltorb just has no options. Hopefully that doesn't hold true of Sabrina, who doesn't really have a strong matchup against Voltorb. Or maybe I should take that back, because critical hit Psybeam that confuses me is pretty good. I mean, I will outspeed, and I'll do decent damage, but the fact is Swift actually does almost as much as Thunderbolt. And that's not a very good sign. So I reset a couple times against her very first Pokemon, Kadabra, and it's not looking good. We are losing again and again and again, and this is starting to get really frustrating. Voltorb just doesn't seem to have great matchups against any Pokemon we face. Finally, we get by Kadabra on like our 5th attempt, and Mr. Mime goes down pretty easy. We're already at level 50, and Venomoth only takes 2 hits to knock out, but Alakazam can be really tricky. It's going to be a 3-shot with Thunderbolt, and more with Recover, and of course, other than Psy-Wave, it can go for Psy-Beam, which does a ton of damage. Now, I'm not in favor of brute forcing fights and just doing things over and over, but the truth is, if you were to watch those fights I lost pretty critically, we got some pretty absurd critical hit and confusion luck, and at this point, I'm just going to keep using Thunderbolt, hoping for crits of my own. We end up getting confused against Mr. Mime, which again just is ridiculous, but we get a crit against Venomoth. We do hit ourselves in confusion against Alakazam, which sucks. However, we get another critical hit, which, in case you're wondering how I'm getting so many critical hits, it's because I essentially have like a 20+% chance of getting a critical hit since I have base 100 speed, which is pretty insane. Gotta love Gen 1. But now we have every gym badge except for Erica's, Blaine's, and everyone's favorite gym leader for an electric Pokemon, Giovanni number 3. Now at this point, it seems silly to keep putting Erica off. I just really haven't had the time since I was already in Saffron, but Erica at this point isn't so bad. Critical hit Razor Leaf sucks, mind you, but we're at such a high level and our special is so high that even while poisoned, even once Tangela uses Bind, we do too much damage and we're just too bulky for a trainer that has Pokemon half our level. So maybe I could have done this a little bit earlier, but hey, can't say I didn't wait until her battle would be consistent. Next, I'm going to battle Blaine, and first I battled all the trainers in his gym, so I'm at level 52. I do one-shot Growlithe, which is pretty great, and almost Ponyta, but it heals, so basically like a one-shot. I outspeed Rapidash and it goes for Tail Whip. All of this is pretty good. We level up and we outspeed Arcanine. It's going to be a 3-hit KO minus potions, and we get pretty lucky that it just went for Ember. First try victory. And as a bonus, our special is now increased by 12.5%, which should help us, just not against Giovanni, where we're not going to be able to use Thunderbolt a single time because all his 5 Pokemon are ground type. This time, I did have a bit of a trick up my sleeve, but it's not going to help that much. Against Rhyhorn, I can use Toxic. I've used it in a few runs, and it'll help with the rock Pokemon. However, against Dugtrio, what I'm going to need to do is Mimic Dig. This means I can avoid Dugtrio's Dig, and I can use Swift to knock it out. Now I need decent luck against Nidoqueen. And unfortunately, that may not matter because this is going to take more than 2 hits. Or it would have if Nidoqueen didn't use Tail Whip, giving me a badge boost, and thus making it a guaranteed to a KO. Against Nidoking is a little bulkier. It does hit with Thrash, but we knock it out. Unfortunately, Rhydon does have Stomp. I go for Toxic, it goes for Fissure. I have Dig, it goes for Guard Spec, Fissure, and we get really good luck against Rhydon. And somewhat stunningly, with a level 54 Voltorb, we get a first try victory against Giovanni, and we have made our way to the final 6 trainers, including Rival 6. Now, this rival battle is pretty much the same. However, he does have a Rhyhorn, which we know we can deal with, and Venusaur is still going to be an absolute pain. So, yeah, looks like a ton of fun. So the first Pokemon again is Pidgeot, and we're not going to have a hard time. No badge boosting, just 1 KO. Now we're going to go for Toxic. There's nothing really to mimic against Rhyhorn, so we're really only using Swift as a way to just take a turn. There's nothing else to really do, and it doesn't actually do all that much to us. And like with Nidoqueen, those Tail Whips will boost my speed and special. I was going to one-shot Gyarados anyway. Growlithe, the Tail Whips probably mattered. And then against Alakazam, I mimic Psychic. Now, this is important. Oh, that's a great crit. Oh, that's a terrible crit. But that's important because Psychic is super effective against Venusaur, and that's probably a really good way that I can go about beating it. However, I wanted to see whether the fight would be a little bit better if I used Rare Candies. Now's about as good a time as any. Pidgeot's a one-shot. Rhyhorn will take just about as many turns as it did last time because realistically, it's the Toxic that did most of the damage. And so Swift's doing a little bit more, but it's going to take many more turns, and we get hit with way more attacks this time. Frustrating. Gyarados, we go for Thunderbolt. Means we're going to be weaker, by the way, against Growlithe. Well, still one shot because we're at a much higher level. But now Alakazam, I go for Mimic. I want Psychic, and another critical hit. Frustrating. It actually took me a shockingly long time to get a battle versus Alakazam where it didn't get a crit, which isn't like that likely, just kind of awful luck, but it goes for Psychic and then Reflect, and now with 63 HP, we go for Psychic. It almost one-shots, and Venusaur goes for Growth, which is pretty good. Had it gone for Razor Leaf, I would have lost, but it's not guaranteed to go for Razor Leaf. It's just a 1 in 4 chance, and now that we can knock it out in 2 hits, the chance of it actually using Razor Leaf is far, far lower than when it took us like a million hits to knock out Venusaur. So, heading into the Elite Four, we're in a good position. Lorelie, we have good type advantage. Bruno sucks. Agatha might suck. Lance will be interesting. And the champion we pretty much just did, but Alakazam's going to be a little earlier, which may actually be helpful. I have a good feeling. Alright, so like I just mentioned, we have a great matchup versus Lorelie. Thunderbolt one-shots, and we even get the level up. Cloyster is lower special, it's going to one-shot. Slowbro, we one-shot. And then Jinx, it's a little annoying, it's going to be a 2-shot. We could have gotten Frozen, but we don't. So, we don't one-shot Lapras, and there we go. Well, nothing we can do there. No first try victory for us, but I mean, come on. I don't think we're really expecting a first try victory with a pre-evolved electric Pokemon, but now that's not going to happen. Anyway, in the second battle, pretty much the exact same thing occurs, except Blizzard this time doesn't freeze, or really I should say it doesn't use Blizzard, it used Body Slam, and that was an easy victory against Lorelie. Now we get to see how Bruno goes. So against Onix, I have to go for Toxic Stall Strats. Annoying, but there's really nothing to do. We do have Mimic, but there's nothing really to mimic. In fact, I probably should have mimicked Amnesia. Maybe we'll do that once we lose, but we have Onix to knock out. Now we're going to mimic Ice Punch, which was always my plan. Thunderbolt will knock out Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. They have incredibly low special. Ice Punch, I don't know how Voltorb's doing that, is going to one-shot Onix, and then Thunderbolt's going to two-shot Machamp. Like I said before, Bruno is very easy. Then we heal up and face Agatha. So Agatha is annoying because although we're going to outspeed, which is good, we're not going to do as much damage as I'd like. Thunderbolt, though, actually, scratch that. It's a 2-shot. That's incredibly good. We're going to 1-shot Golbat. Haunter goes for Dream Eater. So now we've pretty much gotten through... Oh my goodness. Once you get through Gengar number 1, it's pretty much guaranteed. This Gengar is a 3-shot, and we were 1 Nightshade away from losing. We didn't. We got all the luck we needed, but being able to outspeed, I almost saved there accidentally. That is my biggest fear, of accidentally misclicking and saving. We do not save between Elite Four battles. They're always one continuous attempt. And let's see if this attempt continues versus Lance. Lance leads with Gyarados. We know we're going to one-shot. Now, Dragonair is going to be a little bit more frustrating, and it goes for Hyper Beam. Then I could Mimic Agility, but opt not to and just knock it out, mostly because I think we're going to level up soon. Now, Dragonair number 2 does some significant damage, and at this point, it's pretty much guaranteed we lose. I mean, we'll one-shot Aerodactyl, which is sick, but all Dragonite needs to do is attack us, and it's probably going to be a 3-shot. Well, we get a crit and then Barrier, so yeah, okay. And on our second attempt, thanks Freeze, we've made it all the way to the champion. Man, if that Freeze stops Voltorb from getting a first try victory, I don't know if I'll be mad. I mean, this is crazy. Champion time. So Pidgeot, there's nothing to mimic, nothing to do. Thunderbolt knocks it out. Alakazam, now this is some luck. We're going to mimic Psychic. Please don't drop my special. Psybeam is perfect and no crit. Thunderbolt does just under half. So we go for it again, and we get a paralysis and full paralysis. This is insane. We may have just won. We don't knock it out in 2 hits, and our HP is very low, but we're in a good position. Rhydon, I can go for Toxic, but hey, I got Psychic. Special fell, and Leer missed. Gyarados, we one-shot with Thunderbolt, but this is maybe the scariest Pokemon. Arcanine can do some pretty big damage, but it goes for Ember, gets a burn, but we're going to knock it out in 2 hits. And now, I think we need a crit to win, but this was a really good attempt, a really solid first effort. We don't get the crit, we're hit by burn, and it goes for Solar Beam, meaning we still won. I can't believe it. This is probably the craziest Elite Four, and it didn't even require insane luck or anything. We legitimately steamrolled the Elite Four with a Voltorb. Holy mackerel, that's insane. Level 70, 636. Those are some decent numbers, guys. That is genuinely surprising. I thought Voltorb would be one of the worst Pokemon, but realistically, it was pretty decent. It struggled, but so does every first form, and it's going to find itself solidly in the second tier. Or maybe I should say the B tier, because Ghastly is in a league of its own. But in this tier, we have both Pikachu and Magnemite, and Voltorb, although it was a little higher level, obliterated them in terms of its time. I mean, guys, that was a crazy Elite Four run. Now, part of it was that I spent time leveling up earlier rather than later, which doesn't really affect in-game time. In fact, it's usually quicker to level up later, where you get much more experience points from the harder trainers. This was just a matter of Voltorb kind of struggling at, I guess, the right spots. Perfect spots to level up, and then at the end, it kind of got all the moves it needed to really just plow through. So, as to where Voltorb is going, I'm going to be putting it just outside the top 10. Because Brock is such an obstacle, it's always hard to compare apples to apples, like Omanite had an easy time versus Brock. But in terms of overall, this run went pretty solidly. This definitely feels similar to other B-tier runs. You're going to struggle at one point, and frankly, it might be Voltorb, of all Pokemon, being the best pre-evolved electric Pokemon for a solo run in Gen 1. Kinda cool, didn't expect that. And with that, another video comes to a close. Guys, I think we only have 14 more first form Pokemon. This was our original goal, although we've expanded to every Pokemon. And it's kind of crazy how close we are to finishing this. I never thought I'd actually do it. So tune in for the next one, but until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.